We had two flavors of wake-up music there. It's late in the day. Thanks for your attendance. So for decades, MES has optimized assets, machines, materials, but as we all know, manufacturing isn't just run by assets and machines. It's run by people making decisions in real time and under pressure, as Jeff explained in the keynote introduction yesterday. And manufacturing executions measure things really well, but many or most don't, I guess, orchestrate the behavior of people, which is really important. And that's the disconnect, that's what we're trying to prove, and that's the problem statement that we're working on today. The disconnect between an asset-centric view of modeling your operations and moving to an action-oriented approach to manufacturing. James Balzary, Managing Director at TilliT, Rafael, CTO of TilliT. We're part of Roima, and I'll explain a little bit more about Roima in some subsequent slides. So, most MESs, of course, are really good at measuring traceability, transactions, quality checks, OEE, yield, scrap, uptime. But we know manufacturing doesn't necessarily happen in these types of data-centric ways either. Manufacturing happens when an operator starts a batch or a quality technician needs to come to the line to take a sample to take to the lab, or maintenance personnel respond to an asset performance issue, or a supervisor overrides a control set point on a PLC because they know better, or a schedule changes because supply chain fluctuations impact. Manufacturing effectively runs on events and the decisions that are associated, with those events. I might handheld if that keeps dropping out. Yeah, let's do that. Thanks for that. So typically manufacturing execution systems tell you what happened, but they don't necessarily guide you on what you should do next. And as Jeff mentioned yesterday, it was a really interesting topic talking about the application of agentic AI and the importance of action-oriented foundational models in making those systems work. So it dovetailed quite nicely into what we're really passionate about, which is actions, tasks, and the associated decisions. And it's really important today because the manufacturing world that we live in, Enterprise B as a fictitious scenario, probably represents scenarios similar to yours. No longer do we run a small number of SKUs, static production runs, and fairly predictable supply chains. We run multi-site global operations in probably regulatory heavy environments with extremely high workforce turnover, supply chain variability, and of course, ongoing and increasing margin pressure. So the question shouldn't be, does your MES report or produce an OEE dashboard really well? One of the types of questions we should be asking ourselves is, can I deploy my MES across my footprint, whether that's local, national, or global, do that in an effective, standardized way in a time frame under which the whole macroeconomic conditions haven't changed? Typically, this used to take 5 to 10 years, and we're working closely with the companies like Carlsberg to deploy TilliT across 80 facilities all over the world, and do that in less than half the time that you would traditionally take to do that, because they recognize that speed is a critical enabler. If your rollouts take years, you're optimizing effectively yesterday's strategy. So speed is now a strategic enabler, and it was another point of Jess yesterday was really fascinating, that you create more business impact by making a faster decision than you do with a deeper analysis and slower decision. So scale, speed are critical enablers, and they talk to the low-code and rapid deployment approach that we advocate for TilliT. So TilliT is part of Roima Intelligence. Roima Intelligence really exists to help manufacturers digitize operations at scale. And TilliT's part of a portfolio of technologies that ranges from product lifecycle management, integrated business planning, warehouse management, logistics, advanced planning and scheduling. And TilliT is the low-code, flexible, cloud-first MES in the Roima portfolio. That is the focus of the presentation today. And importantly, it scales from a small site, as little as 10 factory workers for a few $100s a month, all the way up to a global enterprise type of requirement for companies like Carlsberg and others. And when you design scalable systems and you design MES systems around outcomes, actions, and events, everything becomes contextual, everything becomes configurable, everything becomes effectively orchestrated. So you stop building custom engineered solutions and you start building technology that sort of starts to think about and focus on the people and the operator. So in this ProveIT session, we're really centered on the operator and the human. And the operator as a human is serving multiple masters simultaneously. So the operator would need to undertake activities that are serving production, who care about product flow, quality, who care about compliance and control, maintenance, who care about asset health and uptime, supply chain, who care about inventory, materials, leadership, who might care about risk and margin. So this concept of human-centric, connected frontline focused MES is very powerful. And when you deploy a single orchestration engine configured with low code, with the right architecture, and when events triggered structured workflows, which Rafael is going to show you today, underpinned by AI, you get not just measurement, but orchestration, not just visibility, but action. And you can do it yourself. So the democratization of this technology is very apparent, and greater than 50% of our customer base has effectively deployed TilliT as a full-fledged MES themselves without any external need for consulting experience or engagement. So we think speed is really important. So what we're going to take you through today, of course, as many of the vendors have, is the value add that we put around a unified namespace. We're looking at Enterprise B. We're going to look at this from the context of a production process, starting with a production order that needs to be scheduled, working through the full order life cycle from beginning the work order, all of the associated checks and activities that relate to that order effectively, and then looking at some non-productive, non-quality type things that operators need to do, like a clean, inspect, lubricate service. So I'll hand over to Raf. We're going to do a lot of software demo, and then we look forward to questions. We're going to come back and tell you how long this took and how much it costs were you to deploy this type of technology in a similar size factory. Over to you, Raf.
Cool, thanks, James. Okay, I'm starting with just a very, very quick overview of the architecture that we implemented for this proof of concept. And basically, we have the UNS here feeding us a lot of the input data. We have the UNS, the same UNS actually receiving a lot of the output data. But over here, TilliT has two main modules, which is scheduler and DO, and digital operations, MES. And what we're doing is we have a bunch of gateways that are feeding data into the systems. The main one here being our TilliT Edge, which is a no-code agent that allows you to plug into different data sources and collect the data and push that into the MES. But I've also used FlowFuse here to simulate a little bit of an ERP integration. Cool. So we start our presentation actually from the scheduler. So this is our scenario-based low-code scheduler that is connected to the execution system. This means that in real time, I know which order is running. Is that order running on time, behind schedule, ahead of schedule? And with that information, I can turn on auto shift, and it will start to sync the projected end of the order and make sure that the schedule you have is realistic on a 15-minute basis. So as you can see, I have the orange and the colas loaded up. I can see in different color coding, including if it's cola or orange. I do have a lot of orange, whether it's seasonal or not seasonal, and the pack count. And you can see that these gray bars here are the changeover. So this is following a changeover matrix. So the flow here would be to receive the orders from ERP, to schedule them. Once you're happy with it, you release them. Once you release them, it's in the hands of the operator. Speaking of the operator, this is where we start getting into real-time mode, right? So this is our native cockpit view, which allows us to get a sense of the whole factory. And this is following the orders that we're scheduling, right? But at this level where I am, I'm looking at line 1, line 2, line 3, and all the palletizers. That's how I modeled the system for better use. But if I click on line 1, then I can break it down into the different segments that includes depalletizers, fillers, and labelers. Important to note that we do segment-based, OE and and tracking all the data on the segment base, not just on a line base. But if I'm the operator, I would probably, come into the factory and be allocated to a station. In this case, maybe a filler station. And this is my day. My day looks like this. okay? So from an operator perspective, and I'm gonna give you a crash course in how to be an operator using a TilliT, we have here the order. So TilliT has a bunch of primitives that are given to you, and then the extension happens in all the built-in rule base and workflows and activities. So you get given an order. Right now I'm running this order and have produced amount. I have all my actions here that controls those orders, and I need to keep an eye out on my activities. So in TilliT, everything's an activity. Whether it's a downtime reason, whether it's a track and trace, whether it's a quality check, it really doesn't matter. From the perspective of the operator, I have to do something. That something is being formed to you. It's been given by the rules. So you really want to have that automation, process automation. And then the operator is reporting back what they did. Very normal scenario is I need to give the reason for the stoppage. In this case, like any normal system, we have the tree, but here I'm giving a suggestion. When we start to work on this plane here, think about it as a mini app. Okay, everything you see here was fully configurable for this application, and most of them was built by AI, the app itself. In this case, I'm picking up the possible reasons for this downtime. If I'm happy with it, if I want to use the others, that would drive the whole downtime tree. But here, I'm asking, do I need an assistant to fix this issue? So let's say I had a material issue with packaging, and I do need assistant. So right now, we're spinning up an AI session that has curated context of this order, this activity, this moment, this machine, plus a knowledge base that you can add to it. So right now, it's actually giving me, all the indications and what I should be troubleshooting with. I can continue the conversation, right? Where it's going to have that access to what I was trying to say, which is the different data set that you supply to it. Okay, now I'm looking at, I have to do the CIL. So right now I feel like I'm really in a good position in the order to actually do cleaning, inspection, and lubrication. So this would be a weekly event. Every activity, well, not every, but you should really configure the system so that every activity happen on the back of an event. And we're really aiming to have, high 90% of the whole digitization be automated based on rules. So a weekly event was fired, and as an operator, I have to do two inspections. One is the filler spray. And again, this is where we start to go into that mini app application where it was purposely built for this scenario. And I'm having to do a lubrication. So this goes beyond the typical boundaries of an MES in terms of track and trace, quality, and downtime, but it's the reality of the factory. They have way more process than we care to think. Thinking of process, this is an order that has a bunch of information attached to it. And again, you don't have to create the tables. You don't have to build this. This is out of the box. Basically, it has a structure of here is the definition of this order. This order has all these attributes. So what is the bricks target? What is the flavor? And these attributes is what defines the workflow that needs to be executed. In TilliT, we have the workflow engine that we built for TilliT, and it's a manufacturing specific, and it's dynamic. That means that it's getting evaluated in runtime. That means that if things changes over the production, the workflow can change. Here, you can really read that the order ready happened, the event happened, and then an operator performed the line clearance. The order started to happen, and then we started to do some quality checks. And if something failed, I would report this NCR. So on top of the workflow, we have every order that was scheduled on the line level gets split into the different segments, including something like QA, which is an important component. You may have bill of materials loaded as well. You may have activity results from this order that may include upper lower limits and even any of the SPC calculations. It's all in there. And you have also all the downtime that happened with the different reasons and even comments that the operator may have entered. Okay, so this is an order. So what is the life cycle of that? Let's pretend this order is done, and we're going to complete it. Then the system is asking me, do you want to select the next order? Yeah. So we're really trying to enforce the schedule, the compliance to schedule, right? So we're not we're telling the user, this is the next order. And this order is telling me that there's actually 120 minutes of changeover. That's a little bit too much, but basically there's a CIL that needs to happen on this order. So you see that as soon as I click the event, I get a new task. So it's the system telling the operator what to do, what I do now. And here's a very simple line clearance. The form was built by AI, basically. That's why it has all these comments. And we're really trying to give the operator, especially for the newcomers. So then I kick off the changeover, right? And here's where we start getting into another primitive in TilliT, which is the events. You can create your own events, and the system has system events. When I start an order, that's an event. When activity gets issued, that is an event. When the changeover started, for instance, that's an event. And here I have an event that was custom, that came from the PLC, basically. It's just saying, hey, I started the CIP cycle. So from here, we would start getting more of these events. And eventually, you will get to a point where we need to act. We need to have a man in the loop. So here, all the events happened. Some of these actually carried data points. So having these data points coming from the control system is super useful, because now I have an operator activity to validate all those data points and then come back and say, yeah, I'm good with this CIP, I can move on. And remember, this person is walking with a tablet, they have a station, they don't have to go on HMI to check these things, it's coming to them. So now I start the order, and remember that workflow. I start an order, I get the quality checks. Here's a quality check where, imagine I'm a new operator that, I'm not really sure how to perform this quality check. So I bring the SOP to the operator. We're used to having those big 50-page SOP documentation. We're trying to break that activity into very granular format. So now I claim, and this claiming is really interesting, right? Because now I have a bit of a timestamp between the moment that the activity was actually presented, the moment that the operator started, and the moment it completed. We start to get into a level of data that we're not really used to it. Let's say that the bricks that I've analyzed is actually 9, which is below the set point. Set point, by the way, that it can be a result of evaluation. In this case, is plus or minus 2.2% out of the target of the product. So we have, because we work a lot with wine industry, we have a very comprehensive way of managing all these quality processes and so on. So now I have brought again the AI assistant, but this time instead of trying to fix my machine, it is trying to fix my bricks problem. It is going to my SOP that starts to talk about, how do I troubleshoot? What should I do? And right now it's saying, notify your supervisor about this deviation and move on. Again, we're really trying to help the operator here, all right? Because we have such a high turnover on the manufacturing that we used to have those 20 years of experienced operators that knew it all, and now we really need to support the new generation. Here I'm trying to submit, and the system's not letting me. Super interesting behavior, right? Because we do so many of these tasks that I actually fail the check. So I need to stop, think, and act. This is really good to avoid mistakes. So yeah, my bricks was low. I am move on, but now I got a new activity. I need to report the NCR. Maybe this activity could have been done by a supervisor. We have full control of the roles, but now I have to report, Now, the interesting thing about reporting an NCR is that you are running an order. You want to report whether a machine issue, a safety issue, a quality issue, but you want to continue to run the order. So this NCR, I'll show you later, it goes into a different bucket where it gets managed outside the order. So then we move on. We got to do carbonation check. And this is where we go on another interesting application. We have here a QA sample request, super normal, right, in food and bev. We take a couple of the first bottles coming out of the line. We print a label, right, stick it to the sample, and then we get a sample ID. And then we submit this. So what's happening right now is that this activity is issuing an event. Now that event, we have a notion of event relay, which allows you to propagate an event from asset A to asset B. So now I have another person that maybe it's using a mobile phone, and that person is actually working on the QA area. So I navigate to the QA, and the QA is actually serving multiple lines, right? That's why we see so many order runnings at the same time. But if I go to activity list, I have a couple of product validation here. So then if actually this is a good one because this is the wrong one. If I paste the barcode from the wrong order, I create a little widget to say, hey, stop it. You know, you're correlating the wrong sample to the wrong order. This is a big deal. So that chain of custody of the samples and the intercommunication between areas of the factory is super critical, and yet we always use post-it notes, you know, radio, and yeah, not so mature options, right? So here we have the capability of using barcode scanner. We love using barcode scanner for including GS1 and including, you know, more sophisticated barcodes, but it actually works really well. You can still use a normal barcode laser. Okay, time check.
8 minutes.
You're
good for time, Raf.
Okay.
And we've got questions after that, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to show you because I skimmed through, but basically what we didn't actually notice is that while we were reading the order, there was an AI agent on the back end saying, okay, oh, I see that you're about to start this order, so let me help you. So here what the AI is saying, hey, heads up, you know, when you ran this product in previous runs, you had, you know, historical data shows significant changeovers overrun. Okay, so watch out on your changeover because apparently your scheduler is underestimating the changeover, or the performance has been super low. And you see these annotations, they are actually picking up like where did the information came from, whether it was an event or an activity, and so on. So this can be super helpful for the operator. And then the whole experience here can be expanded into, you know, maybe showing a dashboard specifically built for this, not a month, maybe the day, specifically built for this station where I can see, you know, how my lines are running and what are the next orders and so on. So from here, I can start showing a little bit more around the reporting layer because essentially you guys completed the training, the operator training. That's it. That's all they have to know. Everything else is contextualized to the factory. So everything else should actually be, you know, the process that they are used to running. That makes the whole user adoption pretty quick. So from here, we start talking about the first level of reporting that we think it's really important, which is this activity summary. Why is it so important? Because remember that if you did your job well at configuring the system, most, if not all, the activities that are happening are triggered by the system through the workflow, which means that the system is issuing a number of activities that needs to be executed, and we're tracking not just what happened, but also what didn't happen. This allows us to pick out a few key metrics, which is how automated is your process against the rules, and what is the process adherence, how your factory is disciplined in terms of, you know, executing the process. Why this is so important? Because when we're only focusing on the KPIs that show what happened in the past, we're not really helping the operator into, you know, doing the right thing at the right time. This is a little bit of more proactive approach of make sure that there is synchronization between what happened in the real world, in the factory, what happens with the materials, what the operators have to do, and everything is working really, really tight. But we do have, you know, the normal reporting that you would expect to see around the different machines, the changeover plan versus actuals, based on shifts, based on orders, all the way to having, you know, a decent amount of detail around, you know, how was your shift and order relationship and so on. But if these reports that are indeed out of the box, let's say, if that's not enough, we got a couple of options for you. The first one is this low-code report builder that takes any of the data and puts it into a drag-and-drop widget-style reporting. This can be expanded to work on a big TV screen, but it tackles not just the performance of the line, but also, like I was mentioning, you know, how many activities are passing, how many are failing, how many are expiring, which one are expiring, and also other processes that, again, around the factory, tags. So what are the issues you're having with the machines, and how many are open? And maybe you can bring this into a meeting and say, well, have you dealt yet with your star wheel jam? And then it comes some, yeah, we resolved this, and we can tick this off as resolved and move on the meeting. We can bring NCRs that we have to deal with, you know, on the quality check and so on. So now, while I was talking, a couple of things were happening. One was we were propagating basically every event that was relevant back to the UNS. So here you can see in Roima, Enterprise B, all the hierarchy. And when we propagate an event, we propagate it with a lot of context. So even though you do have the possibility of formatting this JSON with, you know, JSON and picking up everything you want, but within here, I have an event that is assigned to an asset, that is assigned to an order, that is assigned to, you know, an activity, and so on. So it's the whole picture of what happened. It's coming down the pipe. And if you're an Ignition user, there's an extra benefit, because right now we're looking at JSON, but if you're an Ignition user, we have a Ignition module that replicates those TilliT assets into a tech provider, giving in real time the running order, the progress, how many have you produced, what's the material, what are the attributes of the running order. We do have a recipe management system that goes on top of that with more parameters, but it's pretty cool and pretty easy for you to have a master data coming from the ERP that's relevant to the control system, and you just want to propagate that. You don't have to do much. And then you have all those events that you could propagate as well, including the ones that went to the UNS. All right, we're going into 2 minutes. I think I showed everything I wanted. I might have gone pretty fast.
I think you did, Raf. Maybe you kind of showed boards and the continuous improvement concepts only through the dashboard view. So
yeah, I showed the dashboard, which is a really cool tool to run a toolbox meeting, to run, you know, level 1, level 2, level 3 kind of meetings. But these as a board, it's a bit of a Trello style experience where you're managing each one of those little mini projects and then just dragging them out into the different states. And then you have people, you know, responding to it and so on. So what's going to happen in our workshop is that we're going to open the bonnet, the hood, and we're going to show how everything is configured and you know, how we got to this demo.
yeah, it's the perfect cut back to the slide deck, please, so we can talk about how long this took and how much effort was involved. So what we showed you today was really the problem restated of enabling a human-centric, operator-centric view of MES, serving multiple personas, configured and deployed in a low-code fashion. So using the engine, Raf put in about 28 hours to configure everything that we showed you today. Very little code, mostly configuration, using the human-centric philosophy, event-based framework, encapsulating equipment, materials, people, and importantly, process. And if you were a factory like Enterprise B, let's say running 4 or 5 bottling lines and a mixing room, the cost per month in a subscription for TilliT would run about $4K for scheduling and full MES execution. And the consulting effort to get to that point, which is probably more of a proof of concept, proof of value pilot versus a full production instance, as little as $5,200. So what we commonly engage in is proofs of value very efficiently to scale up real working examples for a roughly $15,000 fee for up to 3 assets or lines and a 12-week duration. We can typically achieve quite a lot in a 12-week period around a proof of value. So that's effectively what we proved and how we proved it and how much it cost.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Before we go into some questions, I just want to say how much I really appreciate the operator-centric thoughts and visuals of what you guys were showing. As a person who had, well, if anyone has dealt with operators, you know that there are certainly some struggles. I appreciate how we've got the tasks and the tasks are broken out and how easy it is to show non-conformance and everything else along those lines. So that certainly spoke to me, probably speaks to some of the folks here. I also like the comments about the wine industry. It's got to be one of the more fun industries that we can work in, at least after work or whatever working hours look like. Appreciate the slides. As we go into some questions, I've got a couple of questions for these guys, but first the Slido, the QR code. You guys have been here, probably seen this. Please feel free to go ahead and ask some questions here, and we'll go ahead and answer those. So first question, we talked about food and beverage. What other industries? Do you guys doing discrete? Are you guys doing life sciences? If people here are in various industries, what does that look like?
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Look, we do cover a range of industry subtypes, but we're probably more tuned towards process, batch, and simple discrete. So if it's a super complicated multi-level BOM automotive manufacturer, probably needs more of a lean type system from the Roima portfolio versus a TilliT. Life sciences is in the sweet spot. If the modeling requirement fits the way that we model business process, then we're very generic and it's very flexible. But the ideal customer is food, bev, CPG, simple discrete, process, batch, probably not continuous process like mining, oil and gas either. So we definitely need the concept of a production order and all of the associated activities and actions that would typically go around that.
Okay, no, awesome. I appreciate that. On the development side, the go-to market, right? So, Raf, you spent 28 hours doing this. You're probably as good, if not better, than everyone else on the TilliT platform, and which is good. I am happy for that. Is a lot of work in not very much time. You guys talked about the proof of value. What is the typical go-to market? Is it through integrators? Are you guys doing those proof of value? Are the end users delivering it themselves? What does that look like?
Yeah, all of the above, Dave. The typical go-to-market for us is through the integrator and channel market. We do self-deployment as in Roima supported deployment and consultation. And yeah, we have that strong reference case of customers with as little as 4 or 8 or 12 hours of training and support, fully deploying an MES across multiple facilities themselves. If you've got the internal capacity and capability to do this, and it doesn't need a super sophisticated team, but it needs a lot of contextual capability, it is possible to deploy this without any external consultants or integrators. But our classic go-to-market is through partners, for sure.
Okay, absolutely. Good question here, talking about creating activities. Raf, I won't say you have to go do this live if you can go create an activity, but if we wanted to, that would be pretty cool. How do you create activities, right? Are they ingested via SOP, audio, video, etc., or is it learned from history of execution? I guess, how do we create activities? Can you show us, not to put you on the spot?
No, it's all right. So the cool thing is I've showed a little bit of a workflow. That workflow that you've seen was just for one segment, for one kind of product. Usually it goes way more complicated. So when I open the workflow from this perspective, this is still very small. This is 17 flows. A normal wine maker would have, I don't know, 150.
Yeah.
And so it gets pretty heavy, but it's still very manageable. The reason it's manageable is that if I take one of these guys, right, in this case, bricks analysis, we divide the workflow as kind of a bottom-up approach. And we're going to say this activity has a what do we have to do? What does the operator have to do? It has a where is that happening? This where is a condition, right? In this case, I'm standardizing that across all sites, we do bricks analysis on the filler, and this is how we do it. So when I built site 2 and 3, I didn't have to do anything.
Okay.
Then you do the when, which is the link to the event. So if you can go in a factory, look at what is happening and what operators have to do. If you split into what, where, and when, you got it.
Okay. I like that. Talking about events, in the demo, every event was relevant. How do you guys specify what is relevant versus irrelevant?
Yeah, no, true. Like we don't take like all the alarms in the world. Yeah. So what happens with the events is that we have what we call the system events, which are in the system giving that for free. So if you start an order, that's a very important event.
Okay.
And then you have the custom events. So you can create as many custom events as you want, and then you can define rules to how this event happened. There's schedule events, they're API driven, there's MQTT driven, and if you have, again, going back a little bit to Ignition, to raise an event in Ignition is as simple as go to this right folder, go to events, it lists all the custom events available into the system, and then we just come here and say, trigger.
Okay.
So you see that the event engine is kind of, it can be whatever you want. So you are selectively picking an event. And it could be raising the tag from 0 to 1, issue an event.
Okay, I like that. Question follow-up in relation to Ignition. How are users integrating this with Ignition as a front end, as a dashboarding? And then I guess, are most of the TilliT users using TilliT as standalone or in addition to another platform like Ignition?
Well, I think on the maturity curve, once they get a little bit mature, they like Ignition because of the two-way communication. Our Edge native, which is that agent, which it's a good starting point. This is just a read, right? So this, in the current setup against the broker, we are using the native Edge that's running on a VM, Docker, and it's running a template of a tag. And right now, I have the whole OE implementation happening with 3 records for all sites.
Okay. Okay, I like that. Deployment. Is TilliT cloud platform? Can you deploy on-prem? And then the asker was asking, if not, how do you tackle business continuity risks?
Yeah, so it is cloud only. You go on the website, you create an account, and you have it. The business continuity component, there's 2 layers. There's the data collection layer from the control system. For that, it's stored forward. And then there's the application layer that what we suggest to the customers is to have redundancy. So all you need is a browser, so you can be using 4G, and you're still running TilliT.
Okay.
And all the data that's being collected from the machines, they're just stored forward.
Okay. No, I think that makes sense. Lots of cloud platforms similar are cloud platforms only, not able to deploy on-prem. Talking about applications, you mentioned track and trace. Do you have an example of this in TilliT? Is TilliT a track and trace?
We didn't show that, did we, Raf?
No, sorry guys.
Oh, slacking guys.
Yeah, come on.
Yes, we do have the whole genealogy concept and material movement. Okay. The track and trace is based on basic principles of material movement. So you do a consumption, you do a production. We ingest data from MQTT, REST, or activities. And the cool thing about ingesting from activities is that we provide a lot of support for scanning. So you would have like a GS1, and then you just get your phone and it scans all the barcodes. It's pretty handy.
Okay. No, that looks good. We've got a formula question for OEE. Can the formula for the example OEE be modified per end user requirements?
Yes.
Okay.
Configurable, all right? It's a bunch of ticks that you say, do I consider this, do I consider that? So there is like a default that you can start and evaluate if this works for you. But absolutely, there's a lot of opinions on how it should be calculated, and we respect that.
Absolutely. I tell people in a room of 14 people, there are at least 15 opinions as to how OE is calculated.
And all of them are right.
All of them are right or wrong, depending upon who you ask. Were there any features the platform couldn't achieve with the out-of-the-box capabilities for ProveIT?
No, I wouldn't say. I mean, we did simulate the ERP integration, but that would be,
Yeah, so you guys added simulated data. We also pushed the data to Ignition.
Correct.
But everything that we saw core was on the TilliT platform, and 100%. The rest of them were just places that we can read and/or send data.
The collection happens on this edge level, which is our native one, the simplest one. Okay. I could have done in Ignition, but I decided to do here. And then the pumping of data out, we don't pump every data out. We selectively cherry pick the events that you care about.
Okay.
But this is the MQTT outbound channel. Mm-hmm. And then all you got to do is say which event comes to this channel.
Okay.
So it's 2 clicks away.
Very good. How long is needed for a partner or customer to start working on the platform? They're asking if you guys have an example. I don't know if there are any examples we can talk about, but what is the normal ramp-up speed for a partner or customer?
I think the most extreme one was we deployed successful quality OE track and trace into not a bigger site, not like than the example here. And it was 5 months where a group of two actually, system integrator started from scratch. So that's the total amount of project that included the training.
Wow.
I did run an intense 1 week, just hammering the training. That was a bit more intense than it has to be. But what we usually do is we train the partners, especially around an engagement, right? So we're gonna work around together with an RFP. We're gonna build a little bit of a POC. But we do have online video trainings, a lot of help documentation. Everything's open.
Okay. And you guys said that most of kind of the initials were you guys are working with the end user for a proof of value, or the end user and a partner for the proof of value?
Yeah, either or. So we would do proofs of value either through the partner community or direct.
I think it depends on the qualification of the end user.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. If you get a smart guy that knows REST API, that knows a little bit of a data modeling, that gets TilliT straight away, then go for it.
Absolutely.
But sometimes we get people that really are not technical.
We won't touch that one. So how quickly are you guys able to initiate a new instance to a partner that needs to start working for...
Who wants one now?
Before you leave this room.
It takes about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And that probably flows onto a trial period type request. So yeah, for the right engagement, you can access TilliT yourselves. And to Walker's question from some previous sessions, you are able to get access to the system without talking to us, but someone has to approve that. So it is touch-free or phone call-free, but there's some approval mechanism. Trial periods, we will engage for the right type of requirement for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So if people want to try it, go on to the website and you guys...
Just hit log in and then create a new request.
Perfect.
Yeah, there's a sign-up page. Yeah.
Okay.
It's nice if I don't have to know who you kind of... It's not about record. I like to help them, right? Yeah. So it's nice for that we can validate the what you're trying to test.
Yep.
And we'll give you access, and then we'll kind of point to your direction of where the help documentation is and so on.
Okay, perfect. We've got one more question here. If you guys have any other questions, we still have about 90 seconds. So talking about versioning, is everyone on the same version?
Yeah.
What does the upgrade cycle look like? When do additional features and functions roll out? What is that philosophy? We
got releases every 2 weeks.
Okay.
We got 0 downtime. I think in 5 years we have 15 minutes downtime so far. And it's seamless. We have a philosophy of only adding and not removing, so that there's no issue with backward compatibility. And then if you follow our forum, you will see the release notes and what's new.
And if you are in a regulated environment, there is a slower release cycle.
Oh yeah, true.
That wouldn't be possible in regulated industries. So for those industries, it's every 6 months. We've got 2 per year, and quite a structured kind of long-term support model around regulated industries.
Okay, perfect. No, I appreciate it, guys. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out. This was really awesome.